I just thought we can talk about quickly why self inquiry, as revealed by Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, is called the direct way. He himself many times said this is the direct way, and not only direct way, he also many times said this is the last toll gate one has to go through, regardless of whatever other practices one may have. Because if you look at all the practices, including whether it's in the traditional sense, um, called as Raja Yoga, so which is basically the practices of yoga, including pranayama, and then which is breath control, and then going into samadhi, or bhakti yoga as traditionally called, which is the devotional practices of um, taking up a chant, or let's say envisioning God in a certain form and being devoted to that, or even jnana yoga as traditionally called, which is reading Vedantic texts, or even there are Buddhist texts some people read, there are other texts people read and then assimilate the knowledge and then contemplate upon it, and then based on that meditate. So traditionally it's called as Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana is to listen, Manana is to contemplate, and Nididhyasana is to meditate. Even that way, which is the traditional Jnana Yoga, all of these have one thing in common, which is that there is the one doing it. There is the division between the one practicing these practices and the practice. There is an entity doing, and a so-called I doing, whether it's karma yoga we didn't touch, which is basically offering all the actions and their results to the divine, or whether it's bhakti, or whether it's jnana, or whether it's yoga. There is always a certain division between the one practicing and the practice itself. And it has a great merit, all of these. That's why in Upadesha Saram, Ramana Maharshi goes through all these practices before coming to self inquiry, because all these practices help us come out of our normal thought patterns, which is called as samskaras. So there is a lot of thought patterns we carry, whether through genetically or environmentally, and so on, which bind us to the egoic activity. So these practices are very helpful in undoing those thought patterns and clearing the ground, as it were. But what self inquiry points to, what Sri Ramana Maharshi points through self inquiry, is to find out who is the one practicing. So it goes to the very root of the tree, as it were. So if we look at any activity, including right now, and the beauty of this, therefore, is it can be done any moment. It's simply a question of recognition and not even a practice. So if we look at right now, our senses are operating, our eyes are seeing, our ears are hearing, there is smell, taste, and touch. And then there is the mind acting, apparently thoughts acting through talking and processing of the words and all that. The question is, what is the ground in which all of this is operating? So there is an awareness, if we can just look at it, The senses are operating because there is an awareness of the seer and the seen. There is a division apparently between the seer and the seen, but the awareness is underlying both. So there is an awareness in which the seer is known as the I and the seen is known as the other. Same with all the sensory activities. Same with thoughts. There is a thinker and a thought, but there is an awareness that underlies both the thinker and the thought. This is not something that we have to imagine or we have to project, but we simply have to recognize, because without awareness, there cannot be any recognition of the thinker or the thought, or similarly, seer or the seen. So, all apparent dualities are all even made known through the light of awareness. When we similarly act again, when we are talking or doing something, again there is an apparent duality between the speaker and the word, or the doer and the deed. But again, there, the speaker is known as the words. There is an awareness underlying the speaker and the spoken, or the doer and the deed. And this is nothing mystical. We can simply recognize this very moment that there is an awareness in which the speaker is known or the listener is known. I'm not just the listener or the speaker, but there is an awareness underlying it, which is my essential nature, because nobody comes and tells me that there is a speaker or there is a listener. There is an underlying direct awareness in which the activity of the speaker is known, the activity of the thinker is known, as well as the content of the thinking or the content of the speaking. So, this is why the dream analogy is always given, because in the dream, there is the character that is dreaming, or rather, in the dream, thinking, talking, acting, but there is also an awareness of the dream itself, and we are not aware of it many times during the dream unless it's a lucid dream. But we realize that I was not just the character in the dream, but I was the ground in which the entire dream happened. And it's no different now. We are lost in the character, but if we are able to look at this like a lucid dream, then the activity of the dream doesn't stop, but we are able to recognize that there is the awareness that is my essential nature, in which the whole dream unfolds. So, that recognition is what self inquiry leads us to. So, the question, who am I, is a question of, am I the egoic entity, or am I the source in which the ego rises? So, if we ask this question and stay with the question, or the other way to ask is, where is this I coming from? If I look at it, when there are no thoughts, no sensory perceptions, even, there is the ground of awareness still there, and out of which the I apparently rises whenever there is a stimulus of any kind, sensory stimulus or thought stimulus, and so on. And so the response to the stimulus brings about the activity of the ego. But where does this ego rise out of? It's my own ground of awareness. And when I look at it clearly this way, then I notice that the ground of awareness is the only ground there is. And all activities of everything that's being observed, not just of this body mind complex, but every body mind complex, every inanimate object, the entire universe happens within this field of awareness. Therefore, the awareness is not even personal, it is clearly beneath the person, it is impersonal, and it permeates and illuminates all activities. So, this is why one question that comes up once in a while is, if I am the awareness, why am I not aware of the activities of other people, other body minds? It's simply because the activities of the body mind, whether this body mind or other bodies out there or other objects out there, each are happening through its own conditioning. But awareness is something that is beneath all of that and illuminates all of it, and it's impersonal. So the personal activity is not the content of awareness, it is simply a projection within awareness. Therefore, there can be apparently infinite projections, but all of this is within the light of awareness. So it's much the same way as Ramana Maharshi normally many times gave the example of a movie screen, where the light of the movie screen is not bothered with the activities of the characters in the movie screen. So the movie screen has many characters, each of which are light forms. And if we can imagine a particular light form questioning, who am I, the character in the movie, then in this metaphor, this character can realize that I am simply ultimately the light on the screen. And when I recognize that I am the light on the screen, then the light on the screen is the same light that illuminates not just this apparent character, but all the apparent characters. And the light on the screen is quite unbothered with the activities of this character or other characters. So it's not, um, this is the other reason why awareness is not witnessing. Because when you're witnessing, you are aware of the content of thoughts, let's say. So witnessing is another practice that is a meditative practice used by many, which has its own advantages, which its own merits, but it's still within the realm of the character. Whereas awareness is not about witnessing, not about watching the activities, but simply directly recognizing that the awareness illuminates all activities of not just this character, but all the characters on the screen. And that awareness is my essential nature. And therefore, this is why he calls it the direct path, the direct way. It's not even a path, because he used to always joke, uh, how can I give you a path to a place you are already in? Path means you have to go somewhere. You would ask, if you are in Tiruvannamalai already and ask me how to come to Tiruvannamalai, what can I tell you? Because that's how it is. So the light is already here and now. So it's a question of direct recognition, and that recognition is the way of self-inquiry. And the other important thing to recognize, therefore, is it is not an act of choice. One of the things even Sri Ramana Maharshi pointed out is the awareness is choiceless. This is an expression many are familiar with. And why it is important is because choice is again an activity of the ego. If I say I choose to move my attention from the activity of the mind to something else, which I project as awareness, there is still a choice involved. Whereas if I simply recognize whatever the activity of the mind is, if I simply am able to recognize that the light that illuminates the activity is awareness, and therefore It is not about changing the activity. It is not about changing the content. It is therefore it is not about choosing between one thought and another thought, or one activity and another activity. But here and now, whatever the activity is, whatever the thought is, recognizing that the light that illuminates that thought is awareness, and therefore it is um, choiceless, and it is pathless. These are expressions we may have heard, and they are literally true, because it is something that's always the substratum, the ground, here and now. So this is why he also called it the most simple. He said Ati Sulabham. It doesn't seem simple to us because the pull of the character is so strong. That is the only reason it does not seem simple. But there was, many used to think, um, many have even complained to Ramana Maharshi saying, how do you say it's simple? It's not simple at all. And but if you look at it in this manner, then it is the most simple thing, because it is the only thing that there is, without which nothing can happen. Therefore, it is the most simple thing because it's here and now, but it is veiled because of the activities of the character, and therefore it seems so difficult. But the grace of Sri Ramana Maharshi is to point out that you don't have to um, do anything other than directly inquiring into your own nature here and now, and it is available to everyone, regardless of whatever background we are from. And that is the essence of self inquiry, and why he calls it the direct way.